Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, videos by Cardfight Vanguard deck profiles because you're doing Play.com subscribe and shall we? This time we're covering Keter Sanctuary Youthberk set 7. So Youthberk set 7 honestly feels really great. I like how like the one specific card in set 6 that I said, great god, I don't know why Bushy made this thing, it's not that worth it at all, has straight up been the MVP of this deck and is the sole reason why I'm winning. Yes, a set 6 card that I said I would never use and not the set 7 card that gives Youthberk extra drives. I still run that card and yes, it's very good, but somehow the grade 2 is somehow pulling far more weight than the grade 1. So let's go and get this profile started, shall we? Maybe you can see why this MVP is so good. First up, we have our starter in Youth following in footsteps. Youth, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, auto run upon if you 1 second, draw a card. Oh my god, I love this ride line. I always remember the Youth. I don't like the grade 2, or the grade 1, but I do like the grade 0 and the grade 3 because, the grade 0 shows innocence, childlike wonder, and happiness, and then the grade 3 kind of shows depression, anger, murder, destroy, send to hell, etc. I love looking at the ride line, just seeing how he contrasts over the years and how he grows up, but God, you don't really need this as your starter though, because the whole line works without this, but, might as well have the whole line, especially because it actually has a theme behind it, so, yeah, Youth following in footsteps, Youth, that's our starter. Then we have our Overtrigger and Light Dragon Deity of Honors, Armor T Noah, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power, Overtrigger, you may only have one Overtrigger in your deck. If it's a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your beats, express one for the turn, and if you revealed it during your drive check, activate its additional effect, which is during your until end of turn, you perform drive checks for the battles your rear guards attack, which is great because that basically means if you have a full board of grade 3s, which will never happen, though that did actually happen on one occasion because I really needed to and it actually fucking worked, you would get 6 drives. I'm not saying in that situation I sacked the over and I got 6 drives, I'm just saying in that situation calling the grade 3s was a good idea. Anyways, the ability to get drive checks on rear is really good, especially in a deck that you can rush in pretty easily. So, getting those hand cards is nice and all. The 1 million obviously helping with that free draw on the defensive and offensive too. Honestly, in my personal opinion, Bari's better than this, but Keter over, so might as well run the Keter over in the Keter deck. So Armor Tino, that's our over at a 1 of. Then we have our normal triggers. First up, we have 2 copies of the draw trigger Alchemia. I have no idea how to say that. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 5k base. I love this thing's art. It's a tiger, it's a lion thingy, it's blue, it looks really cool, and its claws look amazing. I love this thing. So, we have our 2 draws, which I end up sacking pretty easily. We have more draws after this. So we also have 2 crits with Blade Feather Dragon, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rip, then about a boosted, then about a boost, put it to soul, choose maybe plus 2 for the turn. So, standard crit. You get that soul, you get the 2k, you don't really need it for the soul aspect though, you just get it to, you have something on rear to use. Then we have 3 fronts and Bard of Heavenly Song Outpet, grade 0 boost, 18k shield, 4k power, continues guard, so components Vanguard's a grade 3 plus 5k shield, which is nice because that 20k shield definitely comes in handy when your hand comes clogged with grade 3s, and the plus 10 to front row during the attacks are pretty nice as well. Followed by our remaining 4 draws in Protection Magic Pro B, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, draw continues guard, so components Vanguard's a grade 3 girder, gets plus 5k shield just like the front, meaning we have a 10k shield, which again is nice to have, especially on guarding, and it's also nice to get many hand cards, which is why we end up running 6 draws, so we can get our hand cards up, continuously call stuff, have revolve justice in hand, etc. Because we definitely don't need to worry about crit sacking, and we don't need to worry about front sacking, and then we have our 4 heals and healer of Heavenly Staff at Arshes. So grade 0 boosting his shield, 5k power. We all know why at this point I don't like the effect heals. They're way too situational in my opinion. Greedon and Bastion are the only ones the standing heals really do anything for, yeah, those are the ones I would consider running those matchups for, because anything else is really easy to guard if you know what you're dealing with. Bastion and Greedon are the only ones I would say I would struggle with, and even then the effect heals do not fix that problem. They just make it ever so slightly easier, and I'm not running effect heals for those 2 matchups that I might ever not face. So for the regular heal, it's good, it's consistent. I'm not saying the other heals are not as good, I'm just saying that I'd rather have the consistent heal over the non-consistent heal. And yeah, that's our trigger lineup. We run those 6 draws to get our hand cards. We run the crits at 2 of just because I literally sack crits easily enough, and then you also don't need it because you can just keep applying the pressure with the amount of draws you can get, and then the front triggers, same with the crits, you can apply pressure by front sacking. And then we have our normal units. First up, we have 3 copies of Inunculate Angel. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. On the rear, when your Vanguard is placed by writing from a grade 3, Soul Boss want to retire this unit, countercharge 1, choose one of your Vanguards, gets plus 5 for the turn. I somehow forgot this card existed because I haven't needed to use this in forever. You'd be surprised how much your playstyle's changed by adding that 1 new grade 1, because Grave got, it's not that I don't call her, but at the same time it's because either she just never shows up, or, she just becomes a vanilla on board, because I only use her if she was in my back center. But, anyways, being able to get that 5k is really nice, not to mention the fact it's only a Soul Blast, and she's our only Soul Blaster in my memory. Then again, like, I don't remember how many cards in this deck Soul Blast, but I'm pretty sure it's just her. So, you got basically that free Soul line for the entire game, well, outside of the Ride Line, obviously. You get that counter charge, and this deck can go into a very big counter blast issue if you go all out in one turn, and then that 5k, benefit your Vanguard from being placed during the battle phase, so you don't miss out on boost. All around is pretty nice as well. I like Ununculate. She's a good grade 1. She gets me Counterblast back in case I need it if I've gone too far with it. She gets me 5k, and not to mention, she just, acts really nice for plays, so 3 of her. Also, I see her easily enough, so why not? And then we have 4 copies of straight up the best grade 1 in this deck. Sorry, Ununculate, but it's true. Witch of Acclamation, Sequenia. So grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, continues rear guard during your turn. If you have Vanguard with Youthberk in its card, and gets +2. Of course, it had to specify Youthberk because the grade 1 and 2 and 0 don't have Youthberk in their card name. They have Youth in their card name. So that means she doesn't get +2 unless you're at grade 3. But then auto rear when your unit is placed on Van by your Revolve Dress ability, put this to soul, choose one of your Vanguards, and increase or decrease its drive to 1 till end of the turn. So that's great. It can stack with Gust because what you can do is use this things first to make Gust drive 1 and then use Gust skill to increase it to 2. But just the fact that it's for free, it doesn't cost anything outside of losing a rear guard just to get the drive, which will end up replacing it anyways. All around is pretty nice. It works wonders on Tempest, it works wonders on Gust, and it does stupid things on Zest because your opponent's already trying to not die to this because it's a 38 double crit swinger with, guaranteed possible death most likely, so they guard most likely for a 1 to pass because they're normal, but then they're like, wait, now it has a drive check. Do you let it go through? If you've ever fought me, then you know the answer to that is no, because the rare occasions I use Zest with this, I see a crit on it all the time, and it would be a 48 triple crit, and you 1 to passing it was the stupidest mistake in your life. So 4 of Sequenia, amazing grade 1, gets to the soul, even though soul is definitely not a problem in this deck. Gets to the 2k, which doesn't really do much, but also just gets to the drive, which can be very helpful in the early game. Though in the late game, that just seems to not do anything. But yeah, in the early game, this does a lot. So 4 of Sequenia, just a good grade 1. Then we have 4 copies of our PG Paladinium Zeal Dragon. Grade 1 boost, 0 shifts, 6k base, can change 7 4 sides of the deck, and auto is put on guard circle. Choose one of your to accompany that battle, and if you hand us 2 or more cards, choose a card from your hand, discard it. Standard PG, not to about it. Basically, that means when this and only one of the cards in your hand, you place it on guard circle, you do not have to discard. And that all around is pretty great because that essentially means you can go all out on the offense if you want to, and not suffer from that decision later when your opponent eventually counterattacks you and punches you right in the face for end up discarding all your hand cards for the offense. All around, I like this PG. It's great. I think this PG may like me too a lot more than I think it does because, see, Aegismire, he would show up in my hand often. This thing, I will see 3 of them before I end my first grade 3 turn, and all of them will be in my hand. And that's and I like not even joking, that has been the case for almost all of my games. And there was one time I actually saw all 4 of them before I rode to grade 3, because 3 of them ended up in my hand, 2 of them in my opening, 1 of them I drew the same turn I rode to grade 2, and then 1 of them got drive checked. Quite literally, this PG flocks to my hand really quickly, and I never have to worry about defense. Maybe that's why this deck has such a good defense, because I can literally rely on the PG being there whenever I want it to be. So 4 Paladinium, just a good PG. You can run H-Smile if you want to, but yeah, I like my chances with this one more. Then we have our last grade 1, and that's the grade 1 of the Ride deck. Determined to break away Youth, known in the main deck, just 1 in the Ride deck. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. I like how he looks confident. Continues Vanguard rear guard. During the battle he attacked, he gets +2. I always forget that's the thing, but that doesn't really matter, because it's a 10k swing to an 8k Vanguard if it's actually attacking, and that will never do anything. But cool, that 2k power is just decent. And then auto, when it's rode upon by Knight of Ardent Life, Youth, Soul Blast 1, look at the top 3, choose up to 1 card with Youthberk in its card name from among them, reveal it, put it to your hand, or choose up to 1 grade 2 less card from a unit card from among them, call it to rear guard, and put the rest on bottom. Okay, so while half the time this thing gives me 2 triggers, the other half it does a lot, because that either fetches me a Persona Ride, one of my many Revolve forms. For some reason, if I fetch a Revolve form for this, it's always Zest, and I don't know why. Or it gets me a rear guard, which is great because then that means I can be aggressive, and typically that rear guard is either Friday or Schneisel. And that's just nice, having that free rear guard, getting to extra attack early because now you're on grade 2, you can definitely attack now, especially if you went second. That actually does more if you went first because now you're going to have a lot more power on the opponent, or going against the opponent, or you're just getting set up for grade 3 turn. All around, I like Youth. He's nice, he's a good grade 1 of in the Ride deck, none in the main deck, as frankly you don't need it in the main deck. Then we have our grade 2s. First up, we have the 4 of the MV fucking P, who has been the sole reason why set 7 has no... Oh my god, set 7 has only lost once, hasn't it? I've never lost Well, no, that's a lie. Set 7 has lost 3 times now. Yeah, counting yesterday when I did that match, Set 7 has lost 3 times. But until yesterday, Set 7 Youthberk has only lost once out of its, 50-something fights now, and that is Night of Fierce Break Free Day. Grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base, continues guard circle. If your Vanguard has Youth in his card, at least you get plus 5k shield. Now, I know what you're thinking, that's underwhelming, and to my response to you, yes, to me it was also underwhelming, because I literally said when it was released, or when I got the information, something along the lines of, I probably won't use this card. Whew, how wrong I was. So set 6 was just bad for Youthberk, or not, my set 6 deck wasn't that great for Youthberk because it just, wasn't winning that much, and I thought, my set 5 deck was a lot better. I don't know what it was, but, turns out, set 7 Youthberk, just by adding in Free Day, fixed all my problems, because she is everywhere I need her to be, and I forgot, I think it was against that game against Leonore, or a match that I did off screen, but basically, if it wasn't for me having Free Day, I would have lost every single time because Free Day's 5k shield made that big of a difference. Free Day being a 10k interceptor regardless of what youth I'm on, because she says youth in the card name, so she works for the grade 1, the grade 2, fuck it, the grade 0 if you somehow called her while you're on it, and the grade 3 as well because it also has youth in the card name. Quite literally, her 5k shield been the sole reason I'm surviving on the defense. The PG helps, she's doing her job so well, she works great on the aggressive. For a Free Day, she's just amazing. She has been there wanting you to be, and when she's by my side, you are not breaking through my defense. That has been a general rule of thumb so far. So for a Free Day, don't fuck with her. Then we have our 4 of Boy of Night of Fracture Schneisel. Looks pretty cool, by the way. Grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when is placed on rear. Counter boss 1, look at the top 5. 2 to 1, grade 3 with Youthberk and its card name from among them. Reveal it, put it to hand, and shuffle your deck. And he gets plus 5 for the turn. So great. He's a guaranteed plus 5 regardless if you add something. And if you do add something, you're either getting a Persona Ride or, you're getting your standard Youthberk boys. So all around, pretty good skill for that. The counter boss makes it a little bit hefty, but at the same time, Anunculate is there to fix the problem. Also, the only cards that counterboss in this deck are him and Tempest, so you kind of have free reign over your counterboss. And then auto rear when losing attacks. If your Vanguard was placed by riding from a grade 3 this turn, choose your one of your Vanguards, gets plus 5 for the turn. So great that it can be via normal ride. So, if you Persona Rode him from, if you Persona Ride a Skyfall on top of a Skyfall, that's a guaranteed plus 5 to the Vanguard. If you just did Revolve Dress in general, that's a free plus 5. Only downside is he doesn't give it to himself, but I guess that makes sense because the turn he would be placed, that would technically give him a total of plus 10 or 10. And if you count it with Tempest, then it would give him a total of plus 15. But either way, Schneisel is amazing. That helpful 5k definitely helps out in the early game grade 2 rush, especially when you use Sequena and or Inoculate Angel behind him. Either way, I like Schneisel, and I think he's an amazing card, so I think he deserves to be run out of 4 of and nothing less, because he does set up for that late game play / next grade 3 turn or grade 2 turn, just turn you play him. Now we have our last grade 2, and that is the grade 2 of the Ride line, Knight of Ardent Life Youth, my least favorite looking one out of all of them, though I do like the fact that I think that's just a bird, but if he actually has wings, I'll laugh my ass off. Anyways, grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base, auto when he's rode upon by unit with Revolve Dress ability. Counter boss one, choose a grade 2 or greater card from your drop zone, put it to hand. All around, a pretty decent skill. Essentially means the card you discard for your ride deck for Skyfall basically can go back to hand, which is all around nice because that means you can discard Tempest, Zest, Gust, get them back for free, and then auto Vanderrear when this unit boosted, Soul Blast 1, he gets when he's boosted, you can Soul Blast 1 and give him plus 5 for the battle, which is all around pretty good because that means you can call him on rear guard if you end up having extra copies of him in deck, or just have him swinging for Vanguard, and then he's a 23k swinger, most likely 8k booster, and then his 5k, which does decently enough for an early game rush. I remember one game where I actually had to use his skill to do that early game rush, and it worked out pretty well for me, so I like it. I think Youth is an amazing grade 2. I wish I could run him in the main deck, but unfortunately I cannot, though his Vanguard skill does come in handy on occasions, and the on ride upon skill definitely helps out in fetching Youthberks from drops, so one of in the ride deck. Then we have our grade 3s. First up, we have 2 of my least favorite Youthberk in this deck, and yet the one I freaking draw the most, Youthberk Revolve Form Gust. And what I mean by draw the most is, this thing literally comes to my hand no matter how many times I say I hate it. Grade 3 turn Persona, 13k base, auto when it's placed on Vanguard by your Revolve Dress ability. If your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 greater, discard a card from your hand, one of your units gets plus 10 for the turn and plus 1 drive. Or he gets plus 10 for the turn and plus 1 drive. So all around pretty good, he gets that 1 drive, and if you combo it with Sequena down here, he has a total of 2 drives as long as you use Sequena first. That is important. If you don't use Sequena first, then he can't get the 2 drives. So you use Sequena first, then you use his skill to discard 1, he gets plus 10 in drive, which is amazing because that makes him a 23 and possibly a 33 if you Persona Road, and with Sequena that's with Twin Drive, and all around that does a decent amount. Granted, the Twin Drive has not won me a game, though it has set me gotten me 2 draws, which were 2 cards that allowed me to live the turn, or almost live the turn, and quite literally, if I did live the turn, I would have won the next turn, which is funny. So all around, I like that skill, and then Auto Van, which is the precedent skill for all of them, so I won't read it outside of this time. At the end of the turn, choose a card revolve just ability from your soul, write it as rest. So, that's all the revolve forms have it, so, you go back to Skyfall or Protofall, whichever one you have on your soul at the moment, which I find funny, the fact that you can loop them between the two, so that's pretty funny. Either way, Gust all around is nice. That 23k and extra drive makes him decent, and just like all around good, like going first or like going second. If you went second, he's your best option in my opinion for going into first. Tempest all around is the best one in my opinion because he has straight up been a finisher for all of my games. Yes, Tempest, the one you're supposed to go into first regardless, has been better of a finisher than this, even though I draw this more, and Tempest I just have to search more. And then Zest, like, that's the weird thing too, I see them all super consistently, and I see all of them, like, it will go in order too, like, either Zest, Gust, and then Tempest, or Tempest, Gust, and then Zest. Point is, and then Zest, like, Zest rarely shows up, but like, or goes on Van, because typically I win before that, but like, if I actually do ride him on Van, he tends to be an actual finisher. So 2 of Gust, he's just a good card to have, and honestly, I see him consistently. So for those of you thinking that 2 of is not enough, I draw him consistently enough, so don't complain about it. Then we have 3 copies of my more favorite of them, Zest. Tempest is my favorite. This is my least favorite, even though he's the one I draw the most, and then Zest is my, like, mid. Zest is the one in terms of art I hate the most. Terms of skill, like the most. Tempest is the one in terms of skill, is the middle. Terms of art is my favorite. Second in terms of art. Last in terms of skill. Anyways, Zest, auto when he's placed on Vanguard by the revolve Watch's ability until end of turn, he gets plus 15. If you Persona Road, he gets a crit. So, pretty good. I mean, that's a free 15, that's a 28, and if you did Persona Ride, which you're most likely going to do in this deck, he gets an extra crit. So that's a 38k, double crit swing, and you pump with Sequena and extra drive. I don't know why, I do think people, like, I can understand why people want to cut Zest, especially after Sequena, where Gust becomes, like, so much more better, but, like, you have to remember, in terms of base numbers, unless you see a trigger, Gust is actively swinging for more numbers than Zest is. The only thing Gust is doing is adding that pressure, like, oh, what if I see a crit? They're at 4 damage, they might guard it, but they could also just say no guard it, and they actually might be in a better situation. This is you have to guard it, and you will get your ass handed to you if you don't. So, all around, I do like Zest more, and Sequena gives me more reason to run Zest in my opinion, because now, unless Gust sees 2 triggers, Zest is doing effectively more, so I prefer Zest. I still run both of them because, all the revolve dresses, but in my opinion, Zest does better, though I do go into Gust more just because, like, I need the hand cards. That's why I use Gust more, because I get hand cards out of it, not because I'm trying to win. If I was trying to win, I would go into Zest more. So 3 of Zest, he's just a finisher, and honestly, he is good at doing a finisher, and even then, he's good going first. There have been games where I've won because I went first into him. Not because I won that turn, but because that 28k made the difference in the end. So 3 of Zest, just a good grade 3, and I like him. He can be a finisher, or he can be the reason you win if you go into him the first time you revolve dress. So 3 of. Never underestimate the power of a free 15 and a crit. Possible crit. Then we have our last revolve dress, and my favorite in terms of abilities, or not my favorite, the middle one in terms of abilities, but the favorite one in terms of art, and that is Youthberk revolve form Tempest. Oh my god, I did the snap. I really hope that shows up on camera. Anyways, Tempest, grade 3 turn Persona, 30k base with the best stance in the thing. Auto is placed on Vanguard by Revolve's ability. All of your front row units get plus 5 for the turn, so free plus 5, which is amazing. And then the counterboss 1, reveal top 2, choose up to one of your opponent's rear guards with the same grade as any of the reveal cards, put it to bottom, and put all the reveal cards to your hand. So, even if the reveal cards are different grades, you only get to pick 1 rear guard, but the fact that you can send any rear guard to bottom is amazing. And the fact that that free plus 5 is guaranteed regardless if you counterboss for that skill is great. And, going first, that means you have setup because it's a counterboss 1 to get 2 free hand cards. So technically you combine it with Sequena, you get 5 drives, technically, because 2 from his reveal, we just treat those as non-units, so, or normal trigger, or normal units. So, there's 2 drives, quote unquote, from that. Those are the 2 drives from Skyfall, and then there's the 1 drive that comes from Sequena. So all around, Tempest is great. I like the fact that technically in the first turn you go into him, you can get 5 free hand cards, or 5 hand cards for the cost of 1 counterblast, which is amazing. That 5k definitely can help out in the late game too, where you push for numbers. I remember that made the difference in the end because I was on the verge of losing to Bastion, and that 5k pushed that one extra minute more, especially with Schneisel coming in the further back for once. So yeah, having that ability definitely helps out a lot. I like getting hand cards from it. I like getting the 5k, helps in the final turn aggressive, and also helps in the early game aggressive too, because that actually did nullify like a defensive trigger my opponent got on me. So yeah, 3 of Tempest, he's just good. He works as a finisher. He works as an early game first revolve dress. I think the only one he just doesn't work as the middle one. So yeah, 3 of Tempest, just good. Then we have our last unit in the deck, and it's our main grade 3, one of in the main deck, one of in the red deck, 3 of in the main deck, and that is Youthberk, Skyfall Arms. Grade 3 turn persona, 13k base, revolve dress auto van. At the end of the battle, this unit attacks, choose up to 1 revolve form in your hand, write it as stand and lose 2 drives for the turn. Okay, so this, obviously this will have 2 drives if you combo with Sequena. This will have 1 drive if you combo with Sequena. This will also have 1 drive if you combo with Sequena. This one will be the most powerful when she persona ride. This one will be the second most powerful once you persona ride, and this one will be technically the least useful once you persona ride, but based off my games, he has been the better finisher. So yeah, I still say he's the better one out of being the finishers. So alright, that goes decent. And then the skill I've been more inclined to use as time goes on is Act Van. Once per turn, discard a card from your hand, look at top 3, choose up to 1 card with revolve form and its card name from among them, reveal, put it to your hand, or choose up to 1 grade Tyrell's unit card from among them, call it to rear guard, and put the rest of them in any order. So either you get a revolve form, sadly you can't fetch a persona ride for, Zest setup, but either you get a revolve form, so, your battle phase, or your attack phase shenanigans, or you get a rear guard. And honestly, that can be a good thing, just getting an extra attack out of it, getting a possible booster, which actually was the reason I won, because I know a lot of people in that situation would not have called one of the 3 triggers. I think it was a crit, a front, and a draw to board. I willingly called the crit. That 4k made the difference because it made me hit over a magic number by barely, and I don't know, it was some weird number, and then the crit put it over by just enough, so I was able to hit over and win the game. So never doubt that skill, and even if you see 3 triggers, still call something, because it might win you the game, especially if you're actually going all out that turn. So all around, Skyfall is pretty amazing. The downside is to him, though, that if you see 3 triggers, you're sending 3 triggers to bottom. And I still remember that time where I kind of baited my friend by killing his free day into forcing him to use Skyfall so he could get an attacker, and then he saw 3 triggers, and then those 3 triggers led away from him winning the game, because the first 2 were heals, and then his next one was a draw, and he had a gust in his hand, and then he was going to get an over with it. So all these things that would have prevented him from losing, would have won him the game on his next turn, just all got screwed to hell because he had to use Skyfall. So work with the timing on that one, but the discarding to get to the top 3 all around is pretty nice, and I like him. That persona ride definitely adds for more 10k, and I draw into persona rides pretty consistently in this deck. So 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the red deck of the boy Youthberk Skyfall Arms. As for the deck, I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is fun to play. Getting to grade 3 is always amazing, because I could always go into any of these 3. Zest is sadly the one I go into the least, just because Tempest and or Gust tend to finish it off before I get to go into Zest, but I always wait for that day where I can go into Zest again. But yeah, it's just great having many different options, and not to mention the fact that I love seeing people's reactions when I casually just call one of them to rear guard because I'm going for the final turn, and my hand at that point is probably all grade 3s. There have been multiple times where my hand has just been 6 grade 3s, and it's been 2 personas, and then 1 of each of these, and then maybe 2 copies of Tempest. All around, though, it's fun to play. It's easy. It has very low cost. As you saw, there's 1 or 2 counterblasters at most. No, there's 2 counterblasters, or technically 3 if we count Youth over here. And then there's only 1 Soul Blaster, again, if we don't count Youth, and that'd be Inoculate. So, all around, it's just good. Yeah, it's consistent. Free Day's the MVP, grade 2. Schneisel does his job. Everyone here does their job, basically. So I'm ending here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord, follow the Twitch. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.